Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, I used the Groudon plus Solgaleo team that I brought to Salt Lake City Regionals, where I was able to get top 8 a couple of weeks ago, so we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. Details for the team are in the description below, including a rental and a paste, and I did create a team report / tournament report for this as well, so if you want to check that out, that's also linked down in the description below. Thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day today, I want to know what Pokemon you think has the best lore. I'm really bad when it comes to Pokemon lore and trivia, so let me know your answers down in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, getting into things, and we just went up against this team yesterday in the first match. And it was Landorus Indeedee lead with Zacian Ogre in the back. I'm just trying to think if I have a better game plan other than just try to, bait them into Swords Dancing and then going for max moves on the right slots. I just don't... Oh, you know what's one interesting option? Hold on. I didn't think about this yesterday, but Mimikyu and Solgaleo is really interesting because I can actually... I know what I want in the back. Groudon and Charizard. Yeah, that makes sense. So the idea behind Mimikyu Solgaleo is turn 1, I can go for a max Steel Spike and a Taunt. Indeedee will probably follow me, we'll redirect it away, but then the next turn I can go for a Self Shadow Sneak and then a max Steel Spike again onto a Landorus slot. I think that's really interesting. Now bringing Whimsicott though is maybe questionable. Like Whimsicott over Charizard actually may have been the better call here. Especially because I'm not going to have great speed control, and so Kyogre and Zacian in the back can outspeed me. There's also a chance my opponent doesn't lead Landorus plus Indeedee, but that's by far just the most consistent lead, so if you are watching us play against this team for the first time, I went up against it in the previous episode, and I've actually used the team on Road to Ranked a couple of days ago as well. It features physical, Life Orb Kingdra with Icy Wind, no Protect, and it's just very hyper-offensive, Swords Dance Landorus as well. Okay, it's going to be Landorus and Zacian. How do I feel about this? Generally okay. If you're my opponent, you definitely have to be a little bit worried about Trick Room right now. Intimidate obviously does not affect Solgaleo. Okay. Yeah, I think here I'm down to Shadow Sneak, Solg, Dynamax, and just Steel Spike into Landorus. I guess they could Behemoth Blade and like Max Quake my Solgaleo here, which is interesting. But I need damage onto their Landorus right now. Because if I don't get a big burst of damage onto it right now, I'll struggle to see how I'm going to reliably deal with it later on. And I don't think a +2 Steel Spike will KO, right, if they're Dynamaxed, but I'd ideally put them in KO range where then Charizard can just click Heat Wave and then finish off both Zacian and Landorus if I can then switch the Mimikyu out into Groudon to set up the Sun. Okay, Landorus does not max here. I mean, that should just be a knockout, no? Let's see. Okay, it's just Behemoth Blade, that's fine. It's gonna hurt if they target Solg, but not the end of the world. 386 down to 234. Okay. Now I'm getting a defense boost as well. More importantly, this actually means I just knock out your Landorus, I think. I'll take it. Pleasant surprise there. Cool. The thing is, now my opponent does get a free switch in into Kyogre, right? And so with Kyogre, this next turn, I have to ask what I want to do, because one angle is to actually set up Trick Room. Kyogre is choiced here. It was Scarf, I believe. So... what's their last one going to be? It could be Shedinja. Could be Kingdra. You could just Dynamax Kyogre here. One place to like Behemoth Blade and Water Spout. Honestly, I think I'm down to switch into Groudon here. Especially with that defense boost, I should survive a Behemoth Blade and a Spout, and then just Lightning into Kyogre. I also, like, part of the reason I'm willing to go for this is because I think if you're my opponent right now, you might actually think about Dynamaxing Kyogre, but if you do that, it's actually really bad. Because then Solgaleo just outspeeds you. But I'm hoping with this I can survive even a Water Spout into a Behemoth Blade, thanks to the Sun being up and me getting the defense boost. Okay, Zacian protects. Wow. Amazing. And they just Water Spout. That's fine. Cool. Yeah, I definitely would have survived a Behemoth Blade there with Water Spout, so glad to know my, estimate there was correct. I mean, this is really, really fast-paced, but we're off to a very good start. Because the main question now I have is, like, what in the world is my opponent Dynamaxing at this point in the game? Kingdra would make sense as your final Pokemon. I think they probably either went for a Swords Dance or a Fly on Landorus on turn 1. Actually, I don't think Fly makes much sense. I guess they could have just gone for... No, there's no way they would go for Earthquake there. It's Indeedee. Fascinating. Okay. Well, this played out a lot better than the last time I went up against this team, but this is what I mean, right? Even if there's a lead that I'm really worried about, my opponent still has to identify that lead. Plus, I think Mimikyu's Solg actually could have put in work against it anyway, but now you don't even have a good max option. I guess Indeedee is a max option. Yeah, we have a pretty... It's not guaranteed yet, but Bulldoze here drops Zacian's speed, meaning then the Charizard can just Heat Wave and KO both. So, I'm down to just Bulldoze and Max Quake Zacian here. I don't think my opponent can really come back from this. Well, makes sense. You gotta Dynamax something. So, it is Dynamax Indeedee. You definitely don't see that every day. I mean, even with this, though... If I remember correctly, the Indeedee had Energy Ball on that team. So you could go for a double protect. Okay, yeah, that's what they're going for. I think even if they got that, yeah, you get the KO onto my Groudon, but then I get a free switch in into Charizard, and then I can Heat Wave and Earthquake, and Zacian can't KO both Pokemon. But now it's just a guaranteed win. Props to them, though. They found the right play, right? Which is to go for the double protect there with Zacian. If you get it, KO Groudon, then I don't get to drop your speed. You stall out my Dynamax. Things get a lot dicier for me from that angle. Like, I feel like I should still win, but... Yeah, now there's really just no shot. And I'm pretty sure the only offensive attack on that Indeedee was Energy Ball. So they wouldn't have a way to actually hit Charizard here for good damage. And then so it's like, even if you get the double, okay, you knock out Groudon, I get a free switch in Charizard. I've still activated my policy, right? So then I just Heat Wave and Earthquake. Zacian gets a KO onto 1, but Indeedee is essentially useless damage-wise. So I think in this game, my opponent just got a little bit greedy with their Dynamaxes. Although, I guess they weren't really in a position to Dynamax the Kyogre, honestly. And if they maxed there, they actually would have just wasted their max, because then Solgaleo would have just one-shot it with Max Lightning. Okay. Either way, though, this is one of the reasons why I love Scarf Groudon, right? Because it makes endgames against Zacian really nice, where it's like a single Bulldoze, and then Charizard or Solgaleo can just finish things off. So... no need to risk missing here. We can just Ancient Power into Sunsteel Strike. Indeedee will probably survive, but then we just get one more attack off, and that should be game over. So, yeah. I honestly felt like we were in really good shape after turn 2 in this match. It was a really fast-paced game, but yeah, in the end, they didn't go with Indeedee plus Landorus, which I thought was the scariest lead for me to run into, and what I was expecting. But I think the solution I had is interesting, right? Taunt into Indeedee, Steel Spike turn 1 so I get a defense boost. Then the next turn, Indeedee is basically forced to switch out. I can go for Self Shadow Sneak and then Steel Spike again. Then the interesting question is, would I rather target Landorus or do I target Indeedee, which I know would be switching on into Kyogre or Zacian, because then I could Quake that slot for free. So some food for thought there. But either way, Solgaleo did exactly what I needed it to, and so really pleased about its performance here. And let's keep things going. Ooh, next game here, we've got Yveltal, Zacian, Grimm, Lano, Rotom-H, and Gastrodon. Yveltal's a pretty bad matchup for this team, I think. I don't have too much experience playing against it, but Foul Play is really scary. I was, in one of my practice games, I was up against a Liepard, I had Policy activated, and then Foul Play just one-shot Dynamax Solgaleo at nearly full HP. So, really gotta respect the Foul Plays here. Rotom-H's also not a particularly good matchup. In fact, I think this is a really, really shaky matchup. And, when I had brought this team to regionals, I didn't really expect to see too many Yveltal teams, so it was kind of like a meta call. And so that's the thing with tournament teams sometimes. They might not be optimized for, consistently winning every best of one on the ladder. sometimes you make educated guesses on what you think is going to be popular in a tournament field, right? So I don't particularly love this matchup, but we'll still try to figure it out. Honestly, I'm not opposed to just Charizard and Groudon here, Solgaleo in the back, and then on one hand I want Mimikyu for activating Policy, but I think I'm gonna go with Whimsicott. Like, the fairies are valuable here because they give me more damage into Yveltal. But if I were my opponent, I would probably go Grimm, Yveltal, Rotom, and Zacian as the 4. I think those are just the most consistent for them. But you could easily make an argument for Landorus or Gastro here, but that's just what I would do in their shoes. Okay, Grimm Rotom. What do I need to watch out for here on turn 1? I mean, just general shenanigans from the Grimmsnarls, the first thing I'd argue. I really want to just try to snipe down Rotom here. Like, go for Rock Tomb into a Max Rock Fall. I guess my problem is if Rotom Dynamaxes and just goes for Lightning onto the Groudon, but I don't have great damage into Rotom because, like, Solgaleo is really, really bad into it. So, honestly, I'm going to try to just make a big play here on turn 1. If they get greedy and try to, like, Nasty Plot, this completely punishes them. But if my opponent has seen my team and knows about the Ancient Power... Okay, they switch. That's also a great play. What a play that is, right? Like, it's so risky normally switching in Zacian like that, but it pays off heavily for them. So, really well done. And that switch also makes sense, right? Because, like, even if you don't know about Ancient Power from Charizard, you maybe anticipate Max Rockfall from the Groudon, and you just want to stall out Groudon's Dynamax. However, if I had actually just gone for, like, Wildfire onto Grimm and Precipice Blades, how crazy of a good play would that be, right? So, yeah, this is, on paper, not the best matchup, so I don't mind, you know, going for some big plays like that. Yeah, and they Thunder Wave. Okay, it's not ideal. Okay, at least I've dropped the Zacian speed, and I can Wildfire this next turn. I was gonna say, I actually don't mind a Para here, because then it wouldn't, you know, automatically change the weather. It's not that bad damage from Rockfall, but the problem is now, like, I have a very narrow win condition against Rotom, and I already, like, now I don't really see how I beat it in the late game. Rotom-H is just fantastic into my team, unfortunately. That's probably literally one of the best Pokemon in the format you could use against this composition. And, you know, going into Salt Lake City regionals, like, Rotom was not really a popular pick at all, which is why it was okay, like, having such a bad matchup against one particular Pokemon. I should switch out here, right? Yeah, I guess I'll go into Whim and then just Wildfire here into Zacian. I just don't know how I'm going to beat Rotom at this point. If I had Precipice Blade and Wildfire last turn, like, the thing is, it would give me a really strong turn 1. Yeah, Zacian protects, but that's fine. It means Whimsicott can Tailwind now, at least. Light Screen, yeah. Yeah, my win condition against Rotom is just so narrow here. But this is a good example to talk about, like, team construction, right? Like, so after this game, I can reassess and be like, okay, well, I'm really weak in a Rotom-H, but then basically the question is, do I need to adjust the team to have a better matchup against Rotom-H, right? Like I mentioned, Rotom-H's not exactly a very meta Pokemon, so sometimes it might be okay to just, like, say, you know what, I'm gonna have a very bad matchup against one particular Pokemon. If you run into it during a tournament, so be it. But, it's just all about trade-offs, right? Because in Pokemon, especially when you're team building, it's very hard to build something that consistently wins against everything, right? You were just protected with Zacian. I've got Sunny Day here. You just set up Light Screen. Tailwind doesn't really do anything for me here this turn because of this drop in speed. Protect. Okay, I'm gonna protect and max Airstream into Grimmsnarl here. Oof. I actually had an opportunity to get free damage onto the Rotom there with that play. Okay, that's a little frustrating. It is maybe doable, though, from this angle. Is it? I just don't know how I beat a Dynamax Rotom. I guess with good max cards and switching in Groudon. Yeah, okay. Even though it's a really tough matchup, I think it's still doable, so I'm not going to give up yet. Good Spirit Break, though. That was a great play. I mean, it's just so hard for me to, like, Rock Fall into Zacian in that slot, right? So it's like a very... Even though it feels a little bit risky, I'd have to make such an obscure play that, yeah, like, the odds of me going for something like that are so slim, and my opponent knows that, right? Okay, I got a speed boost onto you now. I mean, the problem is Light Screen is still up. What? Like, they didn't even set up a Reflect, but I guess they don't feel like they need to. For example, one interesting meta change I could do is, let's say Rotom got more and more popular and I needed a good answer against it with this team. I would probably remove Wild Charge on Solgaleo then and then put a Rock-type attack instead. So, these are like potential answers in team building you can find to solve certain problems against certain matchups. I just went for Tailwind and Ancient Power. I don't know where that really gets me. Yeah, they're not going to max, though. Okay. I mean, I just don't see how I beat Max Rotom or Yveltal from this angle. Okay. If Charizard gets an Ancient Power boost, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I just do so little damage into it. Yeah, and it's Nasty Plot. So this is what I was hoping my opponent would go for on turn 1 of the game, but their switch made a lot of sense. So I don't mind going for it because I think if some players would just get aggressive there and think, oh, you know, Grim can set up a screen, I can just Nasty Plot, especially if you're not worried about like a, you know, attack from Charizard. So my opponent did a great job covering for that on turn 1. Yeah, I think Rotom plus Yveltal. I have not run into a matchup as bad as this so far, other than Chongjun's Chardy Berry Ancient Power Charizard. But Rotom on paper is just so good into my main offensive core of Charizard, Groudon, and Solgaleo. So, nicely done. And it's also like tough to break through the screens. Like, I just like Solgaleo's so subpar here, unfortunately, and Charizard's an okay max option, but it's not even amazing. So, yeah. This is an example of a matchup where if my opponent just plays like and does not make any major mistakes, they should have a pretty large advantage, and their turn 1 play was excellent. Great lead into a great bait. So he set up Tailwind. I can Sunny Day. I mean, I'm down to Sunny Day and like just hope for a crit Ancient Power onto Rotom. I think that would actually give me a pretty good shot at winning the game still. You could just Dynamax Rotom from this angle though, right? If you Dynamax Rotom though, is there a shot? Without a Rock type on without a Rock type attack on Solgaleo, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. I'm curious if like Rotom becomes more meta as well, because it is actually pretty good into like the Sun teams, right? Because like, you know, what it like Insane Grim, Charizard, Groudon, Zacian. I think Rotom's actually a great meta call right now. I get full parried, but I think this game was honestly over from the beginning. After turn 1, it's nearly impossible to win this one, unfortunately. But that's why I went for that play, right? Because when you recognize that it's a bad matchup, you're going to just have to take some big risks and just kind of go for it. Good Flare to cover for Groudon switching as well. Yeah, I think even if I got the Ancient Power off there, I'd just do so little damage here that it's just irrelevant, honestly. I'm trying to think if there's a way I can win by getting a double protect off with Solgaleo, because they're going to activate my policy. I think that's the only thing I can go for right now. Because they are... Well, actually, they still have so many turns to reflect as well. Yeah. Moonblast and Protect. This is probably the hardest matchup I've run into, like, in all of the practice games I had. Chongjun's team is also really tough because of one specific tech on Charizard, but the Rotom here, plus the Yveltal combination is absolutely nasty. Plus screens on Grimmsnarl. Like, it's as close as a counter team as you can get, honestly. But once again, even when you have the matchup, you still have to execute it well. My opponent did a really good job executing in this game by, like, the turn 1 bait and switch, right? So basically what I'm going to go for here is just hope for them to activate the policy, try to get a double protect off with the Solgaleo, and then try to, like, double up onto Rotom for a KO, but this is just so tough. Like, Yveltal and Rotom alone, both are just very difficult Pokemon for me to deal with. I can deal with them individually, but simultaneously, a lot more difficult, especially when Rotom has Nasty Plot as well. But, like, you know, a loss like this is a great example of how sometimes matchups can really sway games, right? And that's why in team building, oh my gosh. Double Protect will definitely not be saving me here. Yeah, I don't really see an out here. I don't even have, like, a Rock Slide. If I did, then, you know, we could, like, actually even crit Rock 2-man Rock Slide won't KO Dynamax Rotom here. I mean, like, what I was trying to say, though, is that, like, you're not always going to have a very positive matchup into everything in the game, right? And so you just have to make calculated choices when you're team building and when you're choosing your team as to what matchups, like, you want to go positive against and which ones you want to go neutral against, which ones you want to go negative against, right? And so, as I mentioned, like, Rotom-H, not exactly a Pokemon that's super common, at least as of right now. I do think it actually would make sense for it to trend upwards because it does have a pretty favorable matchup into the Sun teams that we've seen. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that rise in popularity. But in this matchup, yeah, like, I just had very little to deal with it. And I was hoping to just try to catch my opponent off guard and snipe it away at it. But when, yeah, like, my opponent knew exactly what to do with the Rotom. You know, they set up the screens perfectly, and then there's just no way for me to beat Rotom in the end game, unfortunately. So I don't really know what else I could have done in this game, honestly. Like, maybe try to eliminate Grimmsnarl on turn 1 so only gets one of the 2 screens up. Like, I probably have to, like, I don't know, make a really risky lead and then just, like, hope to bait them into switching out Rotom, but then just, like, attack, right? Because also, if I had gone for Wildfire on a Grimmsnarl and Precipice Blades on turn 1 of this game, they would have gotten a Paralysis onto the Charizard, but it actually would have worked out really well for me. That being said, even if I go up 4-2 in this game, late game Rotom-H with Dynamax as well as Yveltal is still a nightmare to go up against. So, yeah, that was just a really tough matchup, honestly. But as always, like, I want to give credit to my opponent because they also knew how to play with the Rotom and knew that was their win condition and protected it perfectly. So, yeah. If you're looking for a way to hard to beat this team, honestly, that last team is it. Like, I just felt like I had no plays that I really could make. So, yeah. Last one here, and we are up against the classic Charizard, Groudon, Zacian. The question I always have here is basically, is this the, you know, regionals winning team? And so I believe the answer to this is actually no, given the order of the team here. So it's actually funny, like, because there's so many different versions of this team going around right now, you can also, like, get a good sense based off the color of Gastrodon. Because pink is on the one on the current rental. So the thing is, if you do not have Chardy on the Charizard, my Charizard actually has a major advantage here. So I'm going to go Charizard, Indeedee, Groudon plus Solgaleo. And the idea is that Charizard should give me a really good advantage because I've got max Rockfall. And so my Charizard can one-shot their Charizard, it can one-shot their Zacian. Wildfire in general is good here, although not as good if you bring both Charizard and Instant from my opponent's end. I could go with Groudon plus Zard, Groudon plus Solgaleo, but I don't love Solgaleo lead here because it's not very good into their Charizard. And they're going to go Charizard and Groudon. Okay. Now, the interesting thing here about turn 1 is that they could go for a Blast Burn onto Indeedee and just max Rockfall my Charizard. That's actually how I lost at Regionals. That is the play that makes the most sense here. So the first question is, are you running Blast Burn? Second of all, do you even go for it? I know I've got Groudon in the back on my end. Like, the play I'm thinking of is Dynamax, Airstream. So this is actually what I went for at Regionals. I went for Airstream on a Charizard and Follow Me, but I lost to Blast Burn into losing. I lost the speed type. Blast Burn then hit Indeedee and one-shot me, even though there was a chance I could survive, and then Groudon just rockfalled me. The thing is, when I made that play at Regionals, I thought it was a decent gamble. They switched Charizard out, okay. Into Grimm, that's honestly fine with me. Actually, with this, then, I don't even have anything to worry about, because now I just get a free Wildfire off next turn. And, like, maybe you rockfall me, but that's fine. So, I'll take it. Cool. Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing to go out the way I did at Regionals, just because I lost the game essentially on the first turn, but when you're up against a really good player, if you can have a slightly favorable, like, coin flip, that's a flip I'll take any time in the day. So the good thing is now Indeedee redirects an attack away from Groudon, and I'm not even sure Max Quake into, or sorry, Max Rockfall into Max Quake is a KO onto Indeedee, but there's also a good chance they just went for a Max Quake immediately here, right? So Groudon maxes. Okay. I don't think Life Orb Airstream KOs Grimm here because we're not a base 140 Airstream, but I could be wrong. Be a pleasant surprise to get a knockout here, but I'm not counting on it. Sorry for doubting you, Charizard. That wasn't a crit either. Wow. I feel like I'm just so used to Grimmsnarls like being so bulky that they survive every dang attack I throw its way. So we'll take it. And they rockfall. That's a beautiful turn one for us. Excellent. Okay. This was the best solution I had against against Chongjung at Regionals. So even though it didn't work out, I was like pretty happy about the adjustment that I made going into game 2 against the Charizard Groudon lead. And in this game it worked out even better because my opponent didn't just go for like Blast Burn into Rockfall in turn 1. But that's the scary thing about this format. Like, you can just lose the game in one turn. And it's like, that makes it feel so volatile, right? So, they bring Charizard out. Charizard's probably just going to protect here. Like, if I were my opponent, I would just protect and then Max Quake into Indeedee. I do want to be a little bit careful here. I think it's actually fine to... Yeah, you know what? Actually, no. It's fine to Wildfire this turn and follow me. And then just Rockfall Charizard next turn. Huh? That's a first. Helping Hand Charizard. Man, we just continue to see the Sun meta teams like progress. That's a really cool tech. Honestly, didn't even know Charizard got Helping Hand. What? That's fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I would not count my opponent out then because of that. I mean, it doesn't make a difference this turn because I think they would have KO'd Indeedee anyway, even without Helping Hand, given that Rockfall almost put us under 50. So if anything, I know that Helping Hand only just revealed information for me that might be beneficial. But that's fascinating. Okay, I really wanted to Wildfire there just because I want this residual going into the late game. I think I want to go into Solgaleo here. The question is what they do with Charizard right now. You could just go for a Helping Hand again and then a Max Quake, so Solgaleo protecting here is really obvious. I think here I'm down to just Max Rockfall into Charizard and protect. The one problem with this play is that they actually switch their Charizard out this turn. Okay, they don't though. This should win me the game, I think, actually, then. Regardless of who Groudon targets. And if they target Solgaleo, then I think it's just over. Helping Hand, though. What an interesting tech on Charizard. This is my favorite thing about seeing metagames evolve and certain popular compositions, like, adapt and basically, yeah. Like, we see new variants, right? And see new different ways to optimize these teams. And these sets, specifically. Yeah, so they went for Helping Hand Quake. Cool. That activates Policy. Pretty sweet deal for me. I said this should be just the wrap at this point, but I could still miss my attacks, which is the scary thing. However, I don't think Solgaleo actually feints to any attack from the Zacian that's in the back. My opponent's still burning from Wildfire as well, and I have Scarf Groudon in the back waiting to just come in and click Precipice Blades. So with that, then I should be able to just click Heat Wave into the Earthquake and we should be good. Another play to consider is switching out the Solgaleo into Groudon, but then the thing is, if I like miss Heat Wave, it's really bad, whereas right now, like, I don't even think you can KO the Solgaleo unless you get a critical hit onto it, because I should survive the Sacred Sword. And then I also have Wildfire taking down as well, so it's like another turn of Wildfire and then Precipice Blades might just be a double knockout onto my opponent's team, right? So it's one of the reasons why I valued setting up that Wildfire. So here I am just going to Heat Wave and Earthquake. I've got the Scarf Groudon in the back, so I know I have a really good endgame against both of these. Zacian goes for Protect, that's fine. I do think that's probably their best play right now. So, like I said, could still lose this off misses, and Heat Wave's not doing anything into Groudon right now. And I do miss, okay. Still fine, though. Especially if you end up KOing the Solgaleo rather than Charizard here. But regardless of who you target, I think it's fine. Okay, and they Stone Edge into me. No problem. Great. With that, then, I should have a guaranteed win with Bulldoze into Earthquake. I don't think... The only question, then, is whether or not crit Bulldoze would knock out my own Solgaleo. I think it's fine to Bulldoze here. I don't think a crit KOs myself. If I were actually worried about that, though, then the play would be to... Like, basically in endgames with this team, you always want to not, like, rely on hitting Precipice Blades and just go for wins that, like, have 100% accurate attacks, i.e. Fire Punch and Bulldoze. So, yeah, I'm fine to just Bulldoze and EQ here. Yeah. I guess they could go for the double here. But they don't. Okay, cool. Ooh, crit there actually would have KO'd, I think. Actually, given the fact I could have KO'd myself with the crit there, like, so basically, you know, 23 out of the 24 times here I win, but, and the odds of that are better than me, you know, missing a Precipice Blade, so I'd rather take the odds of a crit rather than clicking Precipice Blades. But then the question is, I could have just gone for Fire Punch onto the Groudon slot, and just Sunsteel Strike onto the Zacian slot. That may have been a little bit more consistent in this endgame. I guess the only problem... Yeah, I think that's actually better. Bulldoze is fancy there, it's fun to go for, but it's not worth, like, having a slight chance of losing the game. Whereas, my only hesitance with the Fire Punch play was, like, I wasn't 100% sure to KO Groudon. Like, you would think so, but I don't know, Groudons are just so bulky, so that's probably a useful damage calc to learn. And then the other thing I wasn't sure about was whether or not their Solgaleo, or sorry, their Zacian could one-shot my Solgaleo, although I had made the implication that I didn't think it would KO previously on the previous turn, right? And so if I didn't think I would get knocked out last turn, like, I don't know, because I wasn't 100% confident on that calc, I just wanted to, yeah. You know, I knew Bulldoze into EQ would be a guaranteed double knockout there. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think how I could win the game 100% of the time. If I knew my calcs there perfectly, then I think Fire Punch and Sunsteel Strike is honestly okay. My other question is whether or not Fire Punch would KO Zacian in the sun after 2 ticks of Wildfire, because Zacian is really bulky and Fire Punch doesn't exactly have the highest base power there. And then if it doesn't, and you do like KO Solgaleo without a crit, then you can just KO Groudon there with the crit. So it would still come down to a crit, but I think Fire Punch and Sunsteel Strike's a little bit more optimal there. And it would feel so bad to losing to a self-crit, right? So I guess I could have considered Bulldoze and then Protect as well, but yeah. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for this episode, so thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.